Hi, folks. Welcome to the April 16th Chef Digital Online Meetup. I apologize, I forgot to hit the record button at the very beginning of this meetup, so we will join it. I'm going to patch these together and we'll join it slightly after Alan gives his intro. So you didn't miss anything other than this fantabulous opening slide and Alan's intro, but I will add his information to the description below. Hope you enjoy his talk. It was really good. Thank you.
So as you all know, Chef has been around since about 2008. We actually do predate many of our cloud platform partners like Google Cloud and AWS and Azure. And during that time, a lot has changed. So in this timeline, we just wanted to kind of highlight a couple of things. Of course, when our core products came online, Chef Infra, of course, in 2008. And then in 2015, Chef Automate, which is our visibility tool, our visibility platform, Inspec, which is our compliance testing platform, and then, of course, Chef Habitat, which is our application automation tool. And then fast forward to 2019, at last year's Chef Conf in Seattle, we released our EAS platform, which is our, basically just all of our tooling just used in a stack to be able to be consumed at any time. And for 2020 is a question mark is an apt symbol for right now, but we're going to keep on trucking here. So as you all know, application development, it can be sometimes touch and go, right? About 20, 30 years ago, probably more like 30 years ago, waterfall delivery was the standard. There was no denying that at that time, right? You had your waterfall method, you had to gather requirements, go through design, develop, test, deliver. What this method doesn't show is the time commitment to this, right? This can take weeks, months, depending on some projects, maybe even sometimes years. So definitely not an efficient model for delivering an application, because an application is what brings the value to your companies. We're going to do a quick jump over Agile and move to DevOps 1.0, right? So DevOps 1.0, we're thinking of more of an infinity symbol in terms of our development, where we're testing. We're starting off with our development testing, we're planning. The testing is really the focal point of this, right? We're constantly testing, we're constantly looking for, leaks in the bucket to see what we can improve upon. We're engaging with our stakeholders to have those conversations to see where we can improve in that development cycle. The Agile method actually has been reincorporated into what is called DevOps 2.0. And what that does is it actually includes your automated pipelines and integrated tools. With Agile development, you're working with source control, or SCM, you're putting a pipeline in there. Why? Because you're looking to mitigate that human factor in the development. You want to try to eliminate as much of that human factor as possible so that you're dealing with less errors. You want to deal with less errors across the board, obviously. And then at the end, you have deployment. With deploy, it can be within your environments in the sense of you're going from deployment, any of your pre-production environments, which can include staging, testing, QA, and then finally it gets into production. Now that deployed part can be fairly time consuming as well, especially if you're dealing with an extended release cycle. With Habitat, we're looking to streamline this process even more end to end so that you can focus more on building cool tools in your applications as opposed to maintaining them. So simply put, what Habitat allows you to do is define dependencies and ensure consistent build, and then at the opposite end to be able to validate that configuration has been properly delivered, right? So that bridge is really showing that end-to-end process. So let's just talk about, your development shop, right? Over the last several years, you've probably identified a need to ship products continuously and release new versions of your products to your internal and probably external customers. You may have patch versions of your products, maybe going out all the time, weekly, monthly. You may even release a full-on new version, maybe at the end of the year, as an example. All of that is code that your customers will have access to. That is all code that will need to get tested at some point, right? They have to get promoted across environments, and you have to ensure that nothing breaks in that process. If you were, as a development shop, to stop and list out all the technology that makes an application stack within your organization, it's probably hard to determine all those pieces, right? Especially if you have multiple development shops among multiple divisions within a company. Would you be able to cover the technology that other teams are responsible for? Would you be able to identify those? Would you be able to bring in like a joint task force to help streamline that process? Maybe, maybe not. Each company is going to be run a little bit differently, right? Ultimately, we're getting to the point that there is a massive amount of technology to support. You've got your app teams, you have your platforms and tool teams, you have your ops and security teams. Historically, these teams have operated in silos, but in today's world, there has to be much more coordination between those teams. There really has to be a lot of cross-functional acceptance of all of those roles. All apps are impacted by multiple changes, right? So think of this, this iceberg image. Up at the top, you have your new apps, your code changes, your app updates. Those are probably the three things that your app teams are probably looking at as the key factors. But what's under the water? You've got your vendor updates, security updates, database updates. These are things that may or may not be within your control. So how are you able to handle that? Basically, if you have runtime errors that are being caused by this, you may be doing application delivery development wrong. So application delivery the wrong way or the chaotic way, you are dealing with, let's say, a shift left mentality, but maybe not in the best way. You're dealing with databases, middleware, logins, and secrets. Maybe these all are not working as planned. Got to kick it back to your developers again, because maybe they did not set this up properly. Now it's going back to that next team to take a look at that, to try to see what's taking place. Nope, we don't understand. We got to kick it back to the main developers. As you can see here, it gets to be a little bit of a chaotic soup here. Ultimately, what this means is that this is going to cost time and money for your organization, right? With that, you ultimately have declining developer productivity, low deployment frequency, and probably high change and failure rates within your application deployment team. Not the best of circumstances. We offer an alternative. With Chef Habitat, we offer a way to define the application. You're able to validate that application. You're decoupling that application away from your operating system so that now you're driving more towards consistency and productivity across all teams. You want to be able to build a package that you can deliver to any environment. So build once, deploy anywhere. You can deploy into Azure, VMware, AWS, Kubernetes, what have you. You also want to be able to reduce your change failure rates, right? So let's say an application gets deployed and someone inadvertently set up a bind for the wrong database level? Well, in previous examples that we were just referring to, that would take sometimes hours, maybe sometimes days, because maybe the wrong teams are being brought in to help solve that. With Chef Habitat, you actually have a manifest that shows you all of your dependencies. So you're able to identify what is wrong very quickly and get that corrected. We're looking to have you build application definition in a single directory. We provide a quote unquote clean room for you to develop, produce your code, add in those dependencies so that you are creating an immutable artifact that you're able to then push through your environments. So this is an example that my good friend Eric Heiser, who's a fellow solutions architect here at Chef Software, produced. This is an example of a package manifest. As you can see here at the top, it has his name, has the listing of national parks, the versioning, and a date stamp. This creates a unique identifier for that Habitat package. As you can see here, we have some further information of the maintainer, being Eric. You've got the release, the target, the upstream URL, the license, and of course, the hashing as well, among other items. And to go on further with that, you can also identify within the plan file, which we'll show in a little while, how you would also add in your binds, exports, and exposes, as well as your package build dependencies and package dependencies to your plan file so that you're building exactly what you want into the plan file, plan.sh. And this is in Linux, but if this were Windows, this would be in PowerShell, a PS1 file. So within Habitat, we provide, as I was mentioning before, a clean room. The clean room is where you would create that build for that package, where you're actually building that artifact. And in this case, we're loading up that plan.sh in specific. And as you can see here, it's doing the installing, the signing, and the hashing for that particular package. Habitat also provides the dependencies and the transitive dependencies. So the key dependencies here are for this Java-based three-tiered application are Corretto, MongoDB, well, Mongo Tools in this case, and then Tomcat 8. Those three applications also have these transitive dependencies, among them glibc and freetype. So all of these will get pulled into that package. Let me go ahead and pause here and see if there are any questions from the audience at this point. I want to make sure I'm not losing anyone to make sure that this makes sense. All right, I will take silence as agreement and keep pushing forward. Feel free to chime in if you have any questions, though. Definitely an open forum. So as we mentioned, Habitat provides consistency, right? The goal is to build and to deploy. As an example, for Java, you can build a package. You can also promote that package. If you're in a .NET environment, again, it would be using the PowerShell syntax to build and promote. Whoops. There we go. Another cool feature with Habitat is that you're able to deploy into a targeted or an intended channel. So right out of the box, you have two channels that you can deploy into, stable and unstable. But let's say that those two don't work for you. Well, you can create channels like dev, test, stage, production, or prod, so that you can deploy into those specific channels and keep those consistent. So if you're using these in a pipeline, you would still promote into those particular channels for consistency's sake. Now, one of the cool things that our awesome development team pushed out end of last year or early this was the ability to have an applications tab within Chef Automate that sort of shows you the life pulse of the application. So in this case, we are, like I said, we're using national parks, but you can also see the health of the application. In this case, we're looking at one of the national parks nodes for the IP. We're looking at the MongoDB, and we're also looking at a baseline audit script that's going to actually check for the entire life cycle to make sure that that application is healthy and running. So it's a very quick high-level view to let you know if you have any issues with that application. So why Chef for application delivery? Well, in short, we provide consistency and productivity. We provide deployment, speed, and frequency, and we also provide deep risk mitigation. We have some wonderful client stories. If you were to go to chef.io/customers, and you'd be able to see some customer stories, some awesome customer stories for Habitat in particular, as well as all of our tools. And so just some quick high level treats on Chef here, 100% open source, subscription commercial model. These are things that everyone certainly knows about us. And so with that, we're going to switch over to the demo here. So a couple of things I wanted to show here. So I've got a couple of nodes for national parks that are running. So this one is a core node. This one's another core node. This one is a node that's running on an HA cluster. Also wanted to highlight Builder, which we'll get to in a moment. And then, as I mentioned at the onset, this is our public-facing repo for national parks. So this is that URL if you all wanted to go out and take a look at this and play with this. So what I wanted to do was go through and show how Habitat works with Azure DevOps. So Azure DevOps is, as you know, a wonderful CI/CD tool or pipelining tool, right? So I've built a couple of different versions of our pipeline here. So I wanted to kind of kick this off and then come back and show how it works. So for this, I'm also using VS Code. And if I'm going too fast at any time, please feel free to wave your hand, stop me, or what have you. So this is the plan.sh file, as we were notating before. As you can see here, we have some key items that are variabilized here, like your package name, in this case, national parks. Package description isn't as important for the running of the application, but it is important if you're in a collaborative team environment and you do want to define what that application is. Another important call out is the package origin, in this case, Chef Alain. And then, of course, your package version. Package maintainer is definitely important. Your license will be needed. And then some other important items here on the plan.sh are your package binds. In this case, we're variabilizing the port. We're doing the same with the package export. I'm sorry, the port export for the servers, excuse me. And then also we are doing an export for the Java home, meaning that we're abstracting this. So it's not tied to that particular server that you're running. Wherever you deploy this, that's where that Java home is going to be. We're also building logic for the actual package build and also the install. And again, these are all variabilized, which is part of the beauty of decoupling the application from that operating system and being able to deploy it as needed. So I'm going to be making two changes here. I'm going to be making a change to the plan.sh, but I'm also going to be making an update to the index. As I was notating earlier with the map, it's not a bad map. It's a map of the US with some blue tags. But for some, it might not work, might want something to be a little bit more robust, right? So instead of having a blue map, let's say we want to change this to a more robust map of the United States with red tags. Well, here's how we can do that. I'm going to cheat a little bit and say that I already have this code that I want to update already and set to go here. And I am going to paste this into the index.html that the application is going to use. So it's national parks. And I'm going to call this, I'm going to make another change here. Red and 7.0.6. How about that? I'm going to save that file. Going to go to my plan.sh, and I'm also going to update that 7.06. Now, one of the cool things I really enjoy about VS Code is its Git integration. So I have two files here that I am getting ready to stage and commit. So I'm going to stage that, and then I'm going to add a message here. Some folks might not care for messaging, but I promise you, when it comes to Git, having a saved message there is really important, and you'll see why for the pipeline in just a moment here. So I'm going to say date red index.html plan.sh. How about that? I'm going to commit that, and then I'm going to push this to my origin in GitHub. So I just waited for that little blue flag to finish here. I am now going to go to Azure Pipelines. And as you can see here, we now have a pipeline that is queued. And also notice that message that I typed, update red index.html plan.sh, shows right there. So you're able to see that particular, this is going to be the build for this pipeline. So as you can see here, well, you might not be able to see this, but the build is running. And I can click on this, and as you can see here, all of those core dependencies and transitive dependencies, all of these are being pulled in right now. So for the sake of not wanting to bore you all, I'm not going to show the actual build go through, but we're going to talk about how you would utilize Azure DevOps, basically how you would set this up. Yeah, it's already chugging along, going into the build habitat plan. So as I mentioned, National Parks is the repo that we're using, but I didn't give you the whole thing there. I'm actually using a fork, and hey, that's me. So this is the actual fork that that I am using for this, right? So I'm actually going to create another tab here, dev.azure.com. So the way you do this at a high level, and by the way, I'm very happy to go through any of this with you. Mandy can provide my contact information, or I can provide my contact information to you. And we can, I'd be happy to walk you through this at any point. So create a, and thanks for the thumbs up, Mandy. And you can create a National Parks project, or a project called National Parks. And then one of the first things you would do is you would go down and go to your service connections Okay, got some screen garble there. So there are two things that are important here to set up. One being your GitHub connection to that particular repo. And then if you go to GitHub connections, you can absolutely specify that you're going against that national parks repo, in this case, that fork that I was mentioning before. Now, the other one that I would argue is just as important, if not more so, is the builder connection. We actually have a Habitat integration with Azure. And so you would go through and set up your Habitat depot URL, which is the URL for builder, which is bldr habitat.sh. The origin name, in this case, as I was mentioning before, Chef Alain. Now it gets somewhat more complex because when you install Habitat on your local system, in this case, I've got a Mac, so it is actually creating a directory structure that holds some keys that are specific to this origin. It's going to hold a public key, and it's also going to have the signing key to make that handshake so that the system knows that this is actually you trying to access the system. There will be that revision number that you'll see. The revision in this case is actually just the date stamp, and it's actually going to be very, very apparent. And that timestamp will be in the key. You would paste that in here in the public key, and then you paste your signing key, which is similar to the public key. You'd also have your Habitat authentication token, which you would set up as you are setting up Habitat in general. And of course, you can give this any name, service connection name. I just called it BLDR in this case here. So that is really the crux of the setup to have Habitat speak with Azure DevOps, or to have that integration there. Let's take a quick look at our pipeline here. Okay, we're plugging along really well here. So the plan has completed building. It's already completely run through. It then publishes that artifact. The longest part of this build is the build of the artifact. As you can see, for these next parts, for publishing to dev, it takes 19 seconds, or promote to stage rather, about 7 seconds. Now, you might be in an environment where you don't want a package to just automatically push the prod the first few times you do it, right? You may want to have someone to look over this code before it gets pushed. So within Azure DevOps, actually, let me take a step back here, click it here. You can set up a review where you can actually approve that change that goes into production. So we'll actually watch this one go. So the job's going to be pending. And again, all it's doing is verifying that this approval has gone through, that it is an authorized person who is able to create this change, and is now going to download that artifact. The install of Habitat has already been done at the onset. All it's doing is pushing this package into prod, right? So within about a minute or so, we will see this page, when I refresh it, go from blue tags to red tags, okay? But we'll wait just a moment for that one. See, you've got a couple of questions in chat here. Let's take a look at that. Let's see here. First question is, but surely Terraform can equally do all these in deploying applications. So how does Habitat differentiate itself in this process? That's a great question. So with Terraform, you're actually using it for your system provisioning. I personally haven't used it for application deployment. What Habitat does is it actually creates that entire package with all of its dependencies that you could then push across your environments, whether it's dev, staging, production. Maybe I'm not fully understanding your question, but my understanding, at least how we're using Terraform in this example, is that we are strictly using Terraform for provisioning. And as I'm scrolling down, I'm seeing that Matt Ray has answered that question. So thanks, Matt. All right, let's go ahead and refresh this page. Hey, look at that. We've got a more robust map of the lower 48. Yep, raise the roof. The demo gods are friendly to us today. We've got a nice map of the United States with red tags. And so this is one of my national parks IPs. I'm going to refresh. Hey. And then we're going to cross our fingers and hope that our HA, oh, look at that. Pretty slick, right? So Habitat is a really great tool. So again, this is a very simplistic example that I'm providing to you. You could do so much with the tool. So with that, I'd like to go and open it up and see if there are any questions that are out there. Let's see, I'm seeing a question from Paul. Okay, the $64,000 question is, does Chef Automate have a Terraform provider? As in, can you configure the applications using Terraform HCL? That's an interesting question. I don't believe so. Is there someone else on the line who might be able to answer that, or?
I can. So this is Matt Ray. I actually gave a talk at HashiTalks, Terraform and Chef tools better together. So
that's right. That's right. And it's still out there. You can actually find that on the HashiCorp website.
yeah, and hopefully for ChefConf, I'll be giving either a webinar or some sort of talk on the subject.
Awesome.
There is not currently an Automate Terraform provider. There are to just boil my half-hour talk into five seconds.
You can do it.
There's a Chef infra server provider, which allows you to manage primitives on your Chef server, including the creation of nodes and clients. It's not fully fleshed out. There is not one for Automate. It's an interesting question. You know,
it is. Yeah.
Probably we'd need to have some sort of use case for it before we just start writing it. But there are provisioners for Terraform for Chef infra client and for Habitat. So and there's actually an inspec provider too. So in the Terraform world, providers are things that create resources that Terraform can manage, like the AWS, you can spin up VMs or VPCs or whatever. Those are providers, and provisioners are actually configuring things on machines. And so Habitat and Chef, those have provisioners. There's a provider for the other stuff, but not one for Automate. I'd feel free to drop me a note if you have ideas on that. I'd love to talk through that. And I'm just Matt, M-A-T-T, at chef.io.
Awesome. Thanks for that, Matt. Definitely appreciate you stepping in here. Let's see, you've got another question that popped up. Let's see here. Oh, nope, that was just you responding. Any other questions that I can answer in terms of Habitat with Azure DevOps? Definitely a fun demo to work on, and the repo that we have out there actually does have it uses Terraform 12. If you all are using that, if you're not, let's say you're using Terraform 11, there's another great tool out there called TF Switch that allows you to kind of bounce back between versions of Terraform on the fly. Really slick tool. But this is a really fun project to work on here. And really shows some of the value of, you know, like I said, to decouple that application from the operating system and to, you know, get some, you know, see some real changes, you know, happening on the fly. Let's see here. Who's coming in on chat? Yep. And Matt just put the link into chat to his HashiTalk. So, and it's not just his talk. I guess they had like, what was it, Matt? Like 24 hours worth of talks.
Yeah, and there were probably 4 or 5 different chef ones. So there is a habitat talk in there, and chef and packer, chef and console, you know, other, and a chef in the Terraform kitchen driver. So
Yeah, there were a bunch of chef talks. I was actually kind of surprised to see that, but you know, actually not surprised, stoked for that. So. But yeah, so that was pretty much all I had there, man. You kind of just wanted to show the power of Habitat with Azure DevOps. Again, my name is Alain Lubin. You can find me at ALAIN at chef.io. I'm also on LinkedIn, also on Twitter. Let's see, if Chef Conf were a real, you know, person-to-person event, you probably would have seen me, but we'll be doing that for sure next year, provided or, you know, everything gets back to normal. Unrelated question, when will chef certifications be available again? That is an excellent question, Michael. I can tell you that that is something that our awesome training team is working on. Look for that in 2021 though, because we are up to our neck in updating all sorts of great stuff on Learn Chef Rally, but that is something that they are definitely putting some real focus in on. So definitely look out for that. And that was pretty much all I had there, Mandy.
Awesome. Anybody else have any other questions about anything else? Any more dog talk or, you know, whatever? It's all fine, right? All right. Well, thank you folks for coming. As I mentioned at the beginning, next week will be Mendy, and I'll be talking about policy file stuff. That's going to be super interesting. And then the week after that, we talk about Chef 16. So wherever you're finding these, whatever your favorite chef meetup is, keep an eye out. And I'll post this recording online. It'll be on our YouTube channel, and you'll find us there. If anybody wants to present, reach out to me. I'm Mandy with an I at chef.io, or you can find me as LNXCHK on Slack.
You're awesome. One more thing, if I could slide in, James Massardo actually added a link, and I forgot to mention that, so sorry about that, James. There are some great pipeline examples that he just put into chat. Definitely check that out. Great examples for example pipelines, because those are the examples that I used for this project here. So definitely use that. So sorry to steal your thunder there, Mandy.
Yeah, no worries. I will I'll copy that stuff out of there and make sure it gets into the posting on YouTube as well.
Awesome.
All right. If that's it, thank you very much, folks. Have a nice day, night, morning, afternoon, wherever you are, and we'll see you next time.
Take care.